We're broadcasting live from the Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Robyn, Vincent. It is one of the older and more uncomfortable patterns in working life. Women in power sometimes pull the ladder up behind the women coming after them. The research shows it's less about gender than about scarcity. This is what happens when there are only so many seats at the table. Danielle North has lived it. She's a Detroit entrepreneur who spent the last decade building what the world didn't give her: a child care center, a college program for first-generation students, a women's leadership network with 11,000 members. North co-founded that network in 2014 after some of the hardest setbacks of her career came not from men, but from other women. Fast forward to this moment, when Michigan has more women in power than ever, a woman governor, a woman likely to be the next governor who is Secretary of State, a woman attorney general, a woman leading Detroit, the first ever. Many of them are here at the Mackinac Policy Conference this week. So today we're asking, when women finally get power, how do they keep the door open for others? Danielle North, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Robyn. It's wonderful to see you again and have the opportunity to discuss this very uncomfortable but real topic. I'd like to start with what you shared in your opening. It's less about gender and it's more about scarcity. And so the question is, do we keep that door open and do we pull that ladder up? A lot of that has to do with the position that that woman is in. Does she feel she is in a deep space of scarcity where there is, in fact, no additional room within this space? And if she is feeling that, is there a safety net where even if she wanted to cultivate additional space within that room, who are her allies and how does she build that? Because the reality is, sometimes for women, just like for people of color, you are the only one.
I want to get into what that feels like for people who haven't experienced it. Mm-hmm. And it does have me wondering, though, first, is this one of the reasons that you co-founded the Detroit Women's Leadership Network? That was back in 2014. And again, it's now 11,000 members strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we needed a space for equitable support. We needed a space where women of all racial backgrounds, all industries, right? Why this is so intentional. Okay, it's not enough to just get the engineers up or the educators up. We needed a space where we all could be and act as allies and support one another. One of the greatest things that has come out of that space is a natural job board. We're on Facebook, women who are looking for other women to fill positions. They find this as a safe space to say, here are these jobs. Another thing that we fought for was pay equity and pay transparency in that space. So when you post these positions, be transparent on what that salary is. So the women in this group can know if it's something that they should even shoot for. So some of the norms that we don't necessarily have in society, we've been able to build a strong community of that within that space. And folks have been able to hire all kinds of folks for positions, partner with people, have conversations, get simple questions answered.
So it's about a sense of belonging. It is about camaraderie. It is about saying to others within this network, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. Here's how I'm doing this. Here's how potentially it could work for you. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if there was a rule that you knew you had to have from the start when you started this network.
You know what? So the interesting thing is I started the network when I was nursing my second child. He was newly born, and I had read Lean In. And a lot of folks find it elitist, and I always tell this part of the story because it's very powerful. So here I am on maternity leave, reading Lean In, nursing my son, and intentionally and optionally still attending some different networking meetings. And what I found was that I'm really living this and breathing this. And I think about how many women who don't have the opportunities I have. Or when I had my first child, I had even fewer opportunities. So I saw it as, no, I'm not going to be able to go to these events that Sheryl Sandberg is having. Mm-hmm. But what can I do in my own space, in my own locus of control, to make sure that we have where, say, the highest echelon of folks who may not even actually be able to mentor, because that's a deep burden. But you know they're in this space and you know that you can pull upon them or get their advice or see them at an event. How do we interconnect that and expand our circles to women who are entering the workforce or who are leaving because they're a mom and they're worried about, can I get a job again? All of these various spaces that we're in at different points.
So it's about getting in where you fit in. You've said publicly that the person who tried to undermine you at what you thought was your dream job was a woman. And I realize, before we got on the mic, you were talking about the fact that so many women have helped to lift you up as you have been climbing the ladder.
Yes.
So this is not necessarily reflective of your entire experience, but it does seem like it was quite formative. And it wasn't the first time
right.
It had been a woman rather than a man. Would you take me back?
You got those notes, don't you, Robyn?
Always. Would you take me
Forget what I
back to
told
the
you.
moment?
It was on the record, huh?
Take me to the moment that you realized what was happening.
Wow. It was too late. And in both instances, it was too late. The first instance, and I'm going to tell this over the radio, and I haven't shared this before. The first instance, there were two women, and they were white women in my workplace. And I had worked from my role that I had with this company at college, at Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant. And I contacted the corporate office and said, I'm getting ready to graduate. I'm working at your company. I want to come and work at your headquarters. They promoted me to their headquarters. I imagine in the history of this company, this had never happened. A black girl from the city of Detroit writes a letter to corporate and gets a job in Bingham Farms. So I do this, and there are two women there, and I have always been inquisitive. How did you guys get here? I asked. And that's how I've been able to get where I am in life. But they were offended by that. And I didn't know. I was told verbatim, you have to pay your dues up. I never heard this term before. Fresh out of college. You have to pay your dues up. As I was asking questions, I was genuinely looking for the steps. The conversations they were having, I never even heard of it. Even simple things about how much money they spent on furniture in their new house. Like, this was a new world to me. But obviously, they arrived somewhere in their career to get there, to have the income or have whatever else to afford this lifestyle. So I'm trying to get there. I'm not trying to step on them. I didn't have anything. I'm just trying. But I was a threat. These women co-conspired. Told me things like, when you are getting ready to go and do this thing, copy all of the top chiefs in the org when you're, I swear to you,
wow.
I did not know any better. This should have just gone to my manager, but this was the advice. They were literally trying to set me up. It was too late. Once it happened, literally the woman sat there and pretended like we were arguing and started yelling at me for no reason. I had never yelled at her. We had never raised our voices, but they were creating this setup. I ran into one of those women in Walgreens, oddly enough. And apparently I now live in the same community that they live in. And I pretended like I did not know them because I was literally, the year of our Lord, 2024 it was, I was shaken because I had never encountered this person since then. I never got my get back. I never said, like, I know what you did to me, blah, blah, blah. And they helped me in the store. They helped me with my purchase. I had a bunch of stuff because I was having a brunch, believe it or not, for my 80-plus-year-old grandmother and women at my home. I ran out to grab some stuff. I ran into this woman. I pretended like she didn't know me. She knew me. And she was trying to do an in-kind to me by helping me get to my car. And I did not say a word.
So there's still some deep emotions from that experience. I mean, what do you make of that time now?
I imagine that she regrets what she did. I would like to believe that even for her, whatever threat or perceived threat it was, she regrets it. And I don't have any ill will, or I'm not looking for vindication. My vindication is intentionally not returning that to the next woman, intentionally keeping all of the doors open that I can, bringing the next person up. That's where I put that emotion. That's where I put that revenge.
There's a name for this. Women pulling the ladder up so other women can't climb it. The queen bee syndrome. It came out of University of Michigan research in the 1970s. The newer thinking says it's less about gender than about scarcity, a word that we mentioned earlier. It's about how few seats there are for women at the top. Does that match what you lived? Do you think that they saw you as a threat?
I believe that they saw me as a threat. I was well liked in the company.
I mean, here at the conference, you stand out as this vivacious person. I can pick you out of the room. So this isn't hard to believe. You're sparkling when you walk into a room. Go on.
I love you for that. Thank you. But I was too young. I didn't know. And I wasn't shrinking myself because what do you shrink? I don't know anything. I'm just being myself. I'm bubbly. And baby, we worked at an old boys company. They still had the old ashtrays in the offices and in the conference rooms because that's what they used to do in there. And I was well liked by all the chiefs, everyone. We would laugh and joke. And so I think even if it wasn't like the climbing the ladder that they were pulling up from me, it was even the scarcity of how much love there is to go around for women in the workplace from men.
And you also mentioned race here, which I think is an important component of this too. And you know what it has me thinking about? Some recent reporting that was in the Michigan Chronicle. It was an account of the black women who ran Mary Sheffield's campaign. And they described the weight that they carried this way, that if they failed, the door behind them could close for an entire generation.
Absolutely.
That's a weight that men in power don't carry. Are those things related, that weight, and why some women guard their position so tightly once they finally have it?
So I'm going to do a quotable because yesterday the Women in Leadership panel was so powerful with Senator Sarah Anthony, Joy Harris, DTE, and Portia Robertson with Focus Hope. And one of the things that came up in that space was a little bit of talking about that, somewhat of that scarcity. It wasn't framed in that way, but what is happening in those rooms and what has happened in those spaces. And I do believe that the weight on black women is much greater. I mean, we see that right now. It's the pay is 80+% to the dollar to men, but that's white women and Asian women. For black women, it's 64%, and for Latina women, it is 51%. It continues to drop. So scarcity is not perceived. Scarcity is real. Opportunity is not perceived. It's real, right? And so the weight of that is heavy, and we carry it differently than men because as a woman, we naturally have that nurturing. This is something that came out of that talk. We naturally, we want to keep, come on, baby, let me help you. And let me, men, if they are mentoring somebody, they're just going to give you that connection and they're going to go on about their business. They don't feel that ownership of carrying you throughout. And it's a heavy weight, or carrying the negativity, or carrying this loss on your record.
So what you're saying here basically is that, this idea of scarcity is felt and acted upon differently based on a lot of factors.
Absolutely.
For women. It is based on race. It can be based on socioeconomic status. It can be based on things that it's less likely we're going to see men experiencing in the same way.
Absolutely.
It's the Metro on WDET. We're broadcasting from the Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Robyn Vincent. My guest is Danielle North, founder of Kids Kingdom, co-founder of the Detroit Women's Leadership Network. We're talking about what happens when women finally get power and whether they hold the door open behind them. I'm wondering, how do you balance wanting to help people but not the entirety of the responsibility of carrying all of them with you?
Yeah. So going back to the network and just how I live my life in general, it's about the small things. A couple of years ago, I was able to bring one of my team leads, here to Mackinac. That's a small thing. They had never been. They had had multiple positions where they watched other people do it and wanted the opportunity. When you have access, when you have opportunity, to be something seemingly very small, but opening that up. I'm a standing reference for many people. Since I've been here, hey, can I put you down as a reference? People contacting me about positions and I have the connections and the capability to actually be a person of influence for other women.
I want to end on that note, actually. Do you feel like you are now welcomed in the room in a different way than when you think back to working with those white women? Or is it still a struggle? And you only have 30 seconds.
I feel like I have both arrived and I am still driving.
Danielle North, entrepreneur, founder, and a builder of rooms where women hold the door open for each other. Thanks for joining me live on Mackinac.
Thank you, Robyn.
It's the Metro on WDET. Coming up, Kerry Jr. II will take over the ship from our home base in Detroit's Cass Corridor. He'll talk about Detroit's newest sports franchise coming this year, professional women's hockey. More women coverage. That's next on the Metro. We'll be right back on WDET FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.